The essence of the way is detachment, and the goal of those who practice is freedom from appearances. The sutras say, detachment is enlightenment because it negates appearances. Buddhahood means awareness. Mortals whose minds are aware reach the way of enlightenment and are therefore called Buddhas. The sutras say, those who free themselves from all appearances are called Buddhas. The appearance of appearance as no appearance can't be seen visually, but can only be known by means of wisdom. Whoever hears and believes this teaching embarks on the great vehicle and leaves the three realms. The three realms are greed, anger, and delusion. To leave the three realms means to go from greed, anger, and delusion back to morality, meditation, and wisdom. Greed, anger, and delusion have no nature of their own. They depend on mortals. And anyone capable of reflection is bound to see that the nature of greed, anger, and delusion is the Buddha nature. Beyond greed, anger, and delusion, there is no other Buddha nature. The sutras say, the Buddhas have only become Buddhas while living with the three poisons and nourishing themselves on pure Dharma. The three poisons are greed, anger, and delusion. The great vehicle is the greatest of all vehicles. It is the conveyancer of bodhisattvas, who use everything without using anything, and who travel all day without travelling. Such is the vehicle of Buddhas. The sutras say, no vehicle is the vehicle of Buddhas. Whoever realizes that the six senses aren't real, that the five aggregates are fictions, that no such things can be located anywhere in the body, understands the language of Buddhas. The sutras say, the cave of five aggregates is the hall of Zen. The opening of the inner eye is the door of the great vehicle. What could be clearer? Not thinking about anything is Zen. Once you know this, walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, everything you do is Zen. To know that the mind is empty is to see the Buddha. The Buddhas of the 10 directions have no mind. To see no mind is to see the Buddha. To give up yourself without regret is the greatest charity. To transcend motion and stillness is the highest meditation. Mortals keep moving, and arahants stay still. But the highest meditation surpasses both that of mortals and that of arahants. People who reach such understanding free themselves from all appearances without effort and cure all illnesses without treatment. Such is the power of great Zen. Using the mind to look for reality is delusion. Not using the mind to look for reality is awareness. Freeing oneself from words is liberation. Remaining unblemished by the dust of sensation is guarding the Dharma. Transcending life and death is leaving home. Not suffering another existence is reaching the way. Not creating delusions is enlightenment. Not engaging in ignorance is wisdom. No affliction is nirvana. And no appearance of the mind is the other shore. When you're deluded, this shore exists. When you wake up, it doesn't exist. Mortals stay on this shore, but those who discover the greatest of all vehicles stay on neither this shore nor the other shore. They're able to leave both shores. Those who see the other shore as different from this shore don't understand Zen. Delusion means mortality, and awareness means Buddhahood. They're not the same, and they're not different. It's just that people distinguish delusion from awareness. When we're deluded, there's a world to escape. When we're aware, there's nothing to escape. In the light of the impartial Dharma, mortals look no different from sages. The sutras say that the impartial Dharma is something that mortals can't penetrate and sages can't practice. The impartial Dharma is only practiced by great Bodhisattvas and Buddhas. To look on life as different from death, or on motion as different from stillness, is to be partial. To be impartial means to look on suffering as no different from nirvana. because the nature of both is emptiness. By imagining they're putting an end to suffering and entering nirvana, arahants end up trapped by nirvana. But bodhisattvas know that suffering is essentially empty, and by remaining in emptiness, they remain in nirvana. Nirvana means no birth and no death. It's beyond birth and death, and beyond nirvana. When the mind stops moving, it enters nirvana. Nirvana is an empty mind. When delusions don't exist, Buddhas reach nirvana. Where afflictions don't exist, bodhisattvas enter the place of enlightenment. An uninhabited place is one without greed, anger, or delusion. Greed is the realm of desire, anger the realm of form, and delusion the formless realm. When a thought begins, you enter the three realms. When a thought ends, you leave the three realms. The beginning or end of the three realms, the existence or non-existence of anything, depends on the mind. This applies to everything, even to such inanimate objects as rocks and sticks. Whoever knows that the mind is a fiction and devoid of anything real, knows that their own mind neither exists nor doesn't exist. Mortals keep creating the mind, claiming it exists, and arahants keep negating the mind, claiming it doesn't exist. But bodhisattvas and Buddhas neither create nor negate the mind. This is what's meant by the mind that neither exists nor doesn't exist. The mind that neither exists nor doesn't exist is called the middle way. If you use your mind to study reality, you won't understand either your mind or reality. If you study reality without using your mind, you'll understand both. Those who don't understand understanding. And those who understand not understanding. People capable of true vision know that the mind is empty. They transcend both understanding and not understanding. The absence of both understanding and not understanding is true understanding. Seen with true vision, form isn't simply form, because form depends on mind. And mind isn't simply mind, because mind depends on form. Mind and form create and negate each other. That which exists in relation to that which doesn't exist. And that which doesn't exist in relation to that which exists. This is true vision. By means of such vision, nothing is seen, and nothing is not seen. Such vision reaches throughout the 10 directions without seeing, because nothing is seen. Because not seeing is seen. Because seeing isn't seeing. What mortals see are delusions. True vision is detached from seeing. The mind and the world are opposites, and vision arises where they meet. When your mind doesn't stir inside, the world doesn't arise outside. When the world and the mind are both transparent, this is true vision. And such understanding is true understanding. To see nothing is to perceive the way, and to understand nothing is to know the Dharma. Because seeing is neither seeing nor not seeing, and because understanding is neither understanding nor not understanding. Seeing without seeing is true vision. Understanding without understanding is true understanding. True vision isn't just seeing. It's also seeing not seeing. And true understanding isn't just understanding. It's also understanding not understanding. If you understand anything, you don't understand. Only when you understand nothing is it true understanding. Understanding is neither understanding nor not understanding. The sutras say, not to let go of wisdom is stupidity. When the mind doesn't exist, understanding and not understanding are both true. When the mind exists, understanding and not understanding are both false. When you understand, reality depends on you. When you don't understand, you depend on reality. When reality depends on you, that which isn't real becomes real. When you depend on reality, that which is real becomes false. When you depend on reality, everything is false. When reality depends on you, everything is true. Thus, the sage doesn't use their mind to look for reality, or reality to look for their mind, or their mind to look for their mind, or reality to look for reality. Their mind doesn't give rise to reality, and reality doesn't give rise to their mind. And because their mind and reality are still, they're always in samadhi. When the mortal mind appears, Buddhahood disappears. When the mortal mind disappears, Buddhahood appears. When the mind appears, reality disappears. When the mind disappears, reality appears. Whoever knows that nothing depends on anything has found the way. And whoever knows that the mind depends on nothing is always at the place of enlightenment. When you don't understand, you're wrong. When you understand, you're not wrong. This is because the nature of wrong is empty. When you don't understand, right seems wrong. When you understand, wrong isn't wrong, because wrong doesn't exist. The sutras say, nothing has a nature of its own. Act, don't question. When you question, you're wrong. Wrong is a result of questioning. When you reach such an understanding, the wrong deeds of your past lives are wiped away. When you're deluded, the 6 senses and 5 shades are constructs of suffering and mortality. When you wake up, the 6 senses and 5 shades are constructs of nirvana and immortality. Someone who seeks the way doesn't look beyond themselves. They know that the mind is the way. But when they find the mind, they find nothing. And when they find the way, they find nothing. If you think that you can use the mind to find the way, you're deluded. When you aren't deluded, Buddhahood exists. When you're not aware, it doesn't exist. This is because awareness is Buddhahood. If you're looking for the way, The way won't appear until your body disappears. It's like stripping bark from a tree. This karmic body undergoes constant change. It has no fixed reality. Practice according to your thoughts. Don't hate life and death, or love life and death. Keep your every thought free of delusion, and in life you'll witness the beginning of nirvana. And in death you'll experience the assurance of no rebirth. To see form, but not to be corrupted by form, or to hear sound, but not to be corrupted by sound, is liberation. Eyes that aren't attached to form are the gates of Zen. In short, those who perceive the existence and nature of phenomena and remain unattached are liberated. Those who perceive the external appearance of phenomena are at their mercy. Not to be subject to afflictions is what's meant by liberation. There is no other liberation. When you know how to look at form, form doesn't give rise to mind, and mind doesn't give rise to form. Form and mind are both pure. When delusions are absent, the mind is in the land of Buddhas. When delusions are present, the mind is hell. Mortals create delusions, and by using the mind to give birth to mind, they always find themselves in hell. Bodhisattvas see through delusions, and by not using the mind to give birth to mind, they always find themselves in the land of Buddhas. If you don't use your mind to create mind, every state of mind is empty, and every thought is still. You go from one Buddha land to another. If you use your mind to create mind, every state of mind is disturbed, and every thought is in motion. You go from one hell to the next. When a thought arises, there's good karma and bad karma, heaven and hell. When no thought arises, there's no good karma or bad karma, no heaven or hell. The body neither exists nor doesn't exist. Hence, existence as a mortal and non-existence as a sage are conceptions with which a sage has nothing to do. Their heart is empty and spacious as the sky. That which follows is witnessed on the way. It's beyond the ken of mortals. When the mind reaches nirvana, You don't see nirvana, because the mind is nirvana. If you see nirvana somewhere outside the mind, you're deluding yourself. Every suffering is a Buddha seed, because suffering impels mortals to seek wisdom. But you can only say that suffering gives rise to Buddhahood. You can't say that suffering is Buddhahood. Your body and mind are the field. Suffering is the seed, wisdom the sprout, and Buddhahood the grain. The Buddha in the mind is like a fragrance in a tree. The Buddha comes from a mind free of suffering, just as a fragrance comes from a tree free of decay. There's no fragrance without the tree, and no Buddha without the mind. If there's a fragrance without a tree, it's a different fragrance. If there's a Buddha without your mind, it's a different Buddha. When the three poisons are present in your mind, you live in a land of filth. When the three poisons are absent from your mind, you live in a land of purity. The sutras say, if you fill a land with impurity and filth, no Buddha will ever appear. Impurity and filth refer to the three poisons and the other poisons. A Buddha refers to a pure and awakened mind. There's no language that isn't the Dharma. To talk all day without saying anything is the way. To be silent all day and still say something isn't the way. Hence, neither does a Tathagata's speech depend on silence, nor does their speech depend on speech, nor does their speech exist apart from their silence. Those who understand both speech and silence are in samadhi. If you speak when you know, your speech is free. If you're silent when you don't know, your silence is tied. If speech isn't attached to appearances, it's free. If silence is attached to appearances, it's tied. Language is essentially free. It has nothing to do with attachment. And attachment has nothing to do with language. Reality has no high or low. If you see high or low, it isn't real. A raft isn't real, but a passenger raft is. A person who rides such a raft can cross that which isn't real. That's why it's real. According to the world, there's male and female, rich and poor. According to the way, there's no male or female, no rich or poor. When the goddess realised the way, she didn't change her sex. When the stable boy awakened to the truth, he didn't change his status. Free of sex and status, they shared the same basic appearance. The goddess searched 12 years for her womanhood without success. To search 12 years for one's manhood would likewise be fruitless. The 12 years refers to the 12 entrances. Without the mind, there's no Buddha. Without the Buddha, there is no mind. Likewise, without water, there's no ice. And without ice, there is no water. Whoever talks about leaving the mind doesn't get very far. Don't become attached to appearances of the mind. The sutras say, when you see no appearance, you see the Buddha. This is what's meant by being free from appearances of the mind. Without the mind, there's no Buddha, means that the Buddha comes from the mind. The mind gives birth to the Buddha. But although the Buddha comes from the mind doesn't come from the Buddha. Just as a fish comes from water, but the water doesn't come from fish. Whoever wants to see a fish sees the water before they see the fish. And whoever wants to see a Buddha sees the mind before they see the Buddha. Once you've seen the fish, you forget about the water. And once you've seen the Buddha, you forget about the mind. If you don't forget about the mind will confuse you, just as the water will confuse you if you don't forget about it. Mortality and Buddhahood are like water and ice. To be afflicted by the 3 poisons is mortality. To be purified by the 3 releases is Buddhahood. That which freezes into ice in the winter melts into water in summer. Eliminate ice and there's no more water. Get rid of mortality and there's no more Buddhahood. Clearly, the nature of ice is the nature of water, and the nature of water is the nature of ice, and the nature of mortality is the nature of Buddhahood. Mortality and Buddhahood share the same nature. It's only because of the delusion of differences that we have the words mortality and Buddhahood. When a snake becomes a dragon, it doesn't change its scales. And when a mortal becomes a sage, they don't change their face. They know their mind through internal wisdom and take care of their body through external discipline. Mortals liberate Buddhas, and Buddhas liberate mortals. This is what's meant by impartiality. Mortals liberate Buddhas because affliction creates awareness, and Buddhas liberate mortals because awareness negates affliction. There can't help but be affliction, and there can't help but be awareness. If it weren't for affliction, there would be nothing to create awareness. And if it weren't for awareness, there would be nothing to negate affliction. When you're deluded, Buddhas liberate mortals. When you're aware, mortals liberate Buddhas. Buddhas don't become Buddhas on their own. They're liberated by mortals. Buddhas regard delusion as their father and greed as their mother. Delusion and greed are different names for mortality. Delusion and mortality are like the left hand and the right hand. There's no other difference. When you're deluded, you're on this shore. When you're aware, you're on the other shore. But once you know your mind is empty and you see no appearances, you're beyond delusion and awareness. And once you're beyond delusion and awareness, the other shore doesn't exist. The Tathagata isn't on this shore or the other shore, and he isn't in midstream. Arhants are in midstream, and mortals are on this shore. On the other shore is Buddhahood. Buddhas have 3 bodies: a transformation body, a reward body, and a real body. The transformation body is also called the incarnation body. The transformation body appears when mortals do good deeds. The reward body when they cultivate wisdom, and the real body when they become aware of the sublime. The transformation body is the one you see flying in all directions, rescuing others wherever it can. The reward body puts an end to doubts. The great enlightenment occurred in the Himalayas suddenly becomes true. The real body doesn't do or say anything. It remains perfectly still. But actually, there's not even one Buddha body, much less 3. This talk of 3 bodies is simply based on human understanding, which can be shallow, moderate, or deep. People of shallow understanding imagine they're piling up blessings and mistake the transformation body for the Buddha. People of moderate understanding imagine they're putting an end to suffering and mistake the reward body for the Buddha. And people of deep understanding imagine they're experiencing Buddhahood and mistake the real body for the Buddha. But people of the deepest understanding look within, distracted by nothing. Such a clear mind is the Buddha they attain, the understanding of a Buddha without using the mind. The three bodies, like all other things, are unattainable and indescribable. The unimpeded mind reaches the way. The sutras say, Buddhas don't preach the Dharma, they don't liberate mortals, and they don't experience Buddhahood. This is what I mean. Individuals create karma. Karma doesn't create individuals. They create karma in this life and receive their reward in the next. They never escape. Only someone who is perfect creates no karma in this life and receives no reward. The sutras say, who creates no karma obtains the Dharma. This isn't an empty saying. You can create karma, but you can't create a person. When you create karma, you're reborn along with your karma. When you don't create karma, you vanish along with your karma. Hence, with karma dependent on the individual and the individual dependent on karma, if an individual doesn't create karma, karma has no hold on them. In the same manner, a person can enlarge the way. The way can't enlarge a person. Mortals keep creating karma and mistakenly insist that there's no retribution. But can they deny suffering? Can they deny that what the present state of mind sows, the next state of mind reaps? How can they escape? But if the present state of mind sows nothing, the next state of mind reaps nothing. Don't misconceive karma. The sutras say, despite believing in Buddhas, people who imagine that Buddhas practice austerities aren't Buddhists. The same holds for those who imagine that Buddhas are subject to rewards of wealth or poverty. They're deluded. They're incapable of belief. Someone who understands the teaching of sages is a sage. Someone who understands the teaching of mortals is a mortal. A mortal who can give up the teaching of mortals and follow the teaching of sages becomes a sage. But the fools of this world prefer to look for a sage far away. They don't believe that the wisdom of their own mind is a sage. The sutras say, among people of no understanding, don't preach this sutra. And the sutras say, mind is the teaching. But people of no understanding don't believe their own mind, or that by understanding this teaching they can become a sage. They prefer to look for distant knowledge and long for things in space, Buddha images, light, incense, and colours. They fall prey to falsehood and lose their minds to insanity. The sutras say, when you see that all appearances are not appearances, you see the Tathagata. The myriad doors to the truth all come from the mind. When appearances of the mind are as transparent as space, they're gone. Our endless sufferings are the roots of illness. When mortals are alive, they worry about death. When they're full, they worry about hunger. Theirs is the great uncertainty. But sages don't consider the past, and they don't worry about the future, nor do they cling to the present. And from moment to moment, they follow the way. If you haven't awakened to this great truth, you'd better look for a teacher on earth or in the heavens. Don't compound your own deficiency.